As John sat down early one morning, something strange caught his eye in the toilet bowl. Leaning closer, he froze in shock, convinced he was staring at a snake. Panic took over, and he immediately called a wildlife expert. Within minutes, the expert arrived, but what happened next shook John to his core. The expert's face went pale the moment he looked inside the toilet. "Sir, this isn't a snake. You need to evacuate your house, now." But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. John and his family had no time to pack, fleeing their home in a rush. His daughter, Lily, watched as everyone scrambled, and something changed in her that day. But what was so terrifying that they had to abandon their home so suddenly? Not long after, the house was swarming with police and experts. John and his wife, Hilly, tried to keep their composure, but the tension was mounting. Police officers whispered among themselves, and soon it became clear that something truly alarming had been discovered. Oscar noticed the officers' shocked expressions and could no longer hold back his frustration. He rushed toward them, demanding answers. To his surprise, the officers quickly stepped back. "Sir, stay right there. Get on the ground and don't move," one of them ordered. Confused and scared, Oscar did as he was told, dropping to his knees with his hands raised. His wife and daughter watched in horror, unsure why this was happening. Police explained that they believed the family could be infected with something. Oscar's mind raced. Infected? This had to be a mistake. But as he tried to protest, he saw Lily crying, surrounded by officers with their guns drawn. The sight made his blood boil. He tried to rush toward her, but he was immediately forced back to the ground. Thankfully, a kinder officer gently took Lily under his wing, which brought Oscar a small sense of relief. Separated from his family, Oscar, Hilly, and Lily were each placed in separate police cars. As they drove off, Oscar noticed his driver wasn't a police officer, but someone in a white protective suit. Questions flooded his mind, but the driver remained silent. They drove for what felt like hours, the mystery deepening with each passing mile. Finally, they arrived at an airport where Oscar was escorted to a waiting helicopter. Strapped in, he glanced around but saw no sign of his wife and daughter. "Where are you taking me? Where's my family?" He shouted over the noise, but no one responded. After a tense ride, they landed at a remote base that looked like a cross between a military camp and a high-security research facility. As soon as they touched down, men in white suits grabbed Oscar, leading him swiftly into a sterile building where he was locked in a small, isolated room. Hours passed, and Oscar's anxiety grew unbearable. Just a day ago, he was enjoying a normal evening with his family, and now he was locked away without answers. His thoughts kept drifting to Lily and Hilly, wondering if they were safe. Eventually, a man in a white suit entered Oscar's cell and introduced himself as Alex, a member of a special operations team. Alex apologized for the extreme measures, explaining that they were necessary. But when Oscar demanded to know where his family was, Alex hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. After a moment, he finally spoke. "It's about your daughter. She's fallen seriously ill." Oscar's heart sank. The supposed snake in their home had somehow made Lily gravely sick. Alex explained that the creature, whatever it was, carried a rare virus. Oscar's mind swirled with questions. What kind of snake could cause this? And how serious was this virus? But Alex dodged the details, saying the information was classified. All he could say was that before Oscar could see Lily, he needed to be tested himself. After a long, nerve-wracking wait, Oscar's results finally came back negative. Relieved, he asked to see his daughter immediately. But before reuniting with her, Alex informed him of strict protocols. Oscar couldn't touch Lily and had to wear a hazmat suit at all times. Dressed in a hazmat suit, Oscar was led down a long corridor by Alex. His heart pounded as he walked, bombarding Alex with questions about the virus. Where had it come from? Was it truly from that snake? Alex stayed quiet, urging Oscar that some things were better left unsaid. Finally, though, he hinted that he'd reveal some details, given Lily's critical condition. When they reached Lily's room, Oscar took a moment to steel himself before stepping inside. The sight of his little girl lying pale and frail in the hospital bed, hooked up to monitors, made his chest tighten. Alex stood by silently, his expression grim. The virus, he explained, was new and poorly understood, and survival rates were worryingly low, especially for children Lily's age. Despite the grim outlook, Alex assured Oscar that they were doing all they could to save her. He mentioned a potential treatment that could work, but it was experimental and came with risks. There was a chance that a blood transfusion from Oscar might help his daughter's immune system fight the virus. Oscar didn't hesitate. He was willing to do whatever it took. However, before they could proceed, they had to confirm that their blood types matched. After a tense period of testing, they found that father and daughter were indeed compatible. Oscar felt a surge of relief as the transfusion began, watching his blood slowly drip through the IV line into Lily's fragile body. Now, all they could do was wait and pray for her recovery. As the transfusion continued, Oscar sat by Lily's bedside, holding his breath with every passing minute. He couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked beneath this ordeal. Why had they been kept in the dark about the snake and this virus? His mind was a whirl of unanswered questions, and the only thing that mattered now was his daughter's survival. Hours later, Hilly arrived, dressed in a hazmat suit as well. She had tested negative for the virus, and seeing her brought Oscar some comfort. Together, they sat by Lily's side, whispering encouraging words to her, unsure if she could hear them, but hoping she'd find strength in their voices. Oscar's curiosity only grew, though, and eventually, he confronted Alex again. He demanded to know what kind of creature had invaded their home and brought this nightmare into their lives. After a long pause, Alex finally agreed to tell Oscar everything, but only if he signed a confidentiality contract. Desperate for answers, Oscar signed without a second thought. With a serious expression, Alex revealed that the virus originated from a strange creature, possibly extraterrestrial in origin. This creature, mistaken for a snake, carried a virus unlike anything known on Earth. Oscar's mind reeled at the revelation. How had something so otherworldly ended up in their home? And why had his daughter been the one to suffer its consequences? But he pushed those questions aside, refocusing on Lily. To his immense relief, later that evening, the doctors had good news. The transfusion was working. Lily had woken up, her color slowly returning, and Oscar was allowed to see her. Oscar rushed to Lily's side, overwhelmed with relief as he saw her awake and looking far better than before. She gave him a weak smile, asking in a soft voice, "Daddy, what happened?" It was a simple question, but Oscar struggled to find words to explain the whirlwind of events. The doctors informed him that Lily would need to stay for observation, but if her condition continued to improve, she might be able to go home the following day. Oscar and Hilly stayed close, speaking gently to Lily and reassuring her. They didn't know all the answers themselves, but they promised her that everything would be okay. The next day, Oscar and Hilly asked Alex if they could return home. However, he explained that their house was still under strict lockdown for deep cleaning and decontamination. In the meantime, a temporary residence would be arranged for them until it was safe to return. Oscar was grateful for the accommodation, though the entire experience felt surreal. Just days ago, their life had been normal, and now they were dealing with a virus from an unknown creature that had nearly taken their daughter. As they settled into their temporary home, they held Lily close, vowing to protect her no matter what came next. Tell us what you think about this story, and share it with your friends. It might inspire them and brighten their day.